how ignorance survives in an era of unlimited information. We are living in the most technologically advanced era in human history. With a few taps on a smartphone or clicks on a computer, we can access more knowledge than entire empires had in their lifetimes. Libraries have been digitized, academic research is publicly archived, documentaries, expert interviews, original source material, and whistleblower testimonies are all within reach. There is no excuse, none, for the average person to remain intellectually blind or unaware of what's happening in the world. And yet, strangely, ignorance not only survives, it thrives. We are witnessing a paradox, a generation drowning in information but starving for truth. In an age where knowledge is power and curiosity is the key to unlocking hidden truths, many actively choose ignorance. They reject anything that sounds uncomfortable or contradictory to mainstream narratives, lazily labeling it as a conspiracy theory. But what they fail to realize is that this dismissal is not wisdom, it is willful blindness. And in this willful blindness, they are complicit in their own manipulation, their own enslavement. The modern age has democratized information. You don't need a degree or a high-status position to uncover powerful truths. Anyone with an internet connection and the will to investigate deeply can challenge the official story, cross-check facts, verify claims, and even discover realities that governments, media empires, and multinational corporations don't want you to know. But here's the catch. This kind of deep intellectual work requires something most people avoid: mental labor, critical thinking, discernment, the courage to face truths that may shatter their worldviews. And for many, that's just too uncomfortable. The mind prefers comfort over confrontation. People prefer emotional security over factual clarity. So when a topic arises that challenges their beliefs or threatens their version of reality, they don't explore it, they escape it. And what better escape hatch than the phrase, "That's just a conspiracy theory." This phrase has become the modern-day intellectual tranquilizer, a dismissive shortcut to avoid cognitive dissonance. It's a shield people use to protect themselves from inconvenient truths. Ironically, the term conspiracy theory was heavily weaponized by the CIA in the 1960s after the JFK assassination to discredit anyone who questioned the official narrative. Since then, it has become a tool of control. Instead of disproving a claim with evidence, all one has to do is label it a conspiracy theory, and suddenly the conversation dies. No further inquiry, no curiosity, just ridicule. It's intellectual laziness disguised as skepticism. And it works because people love the illusion of being rational without doing the actual work of rationality. Let's consider some examples. Before COVID-19 became a global crisis, those who warned about digital health passports, mass surveillance through vaccination IDs, or lab-created viruses were mocked as conspiracy theorists. Fast forward a few years, and these same concepts became part of the official policy in many countries. What began as conspiracy quickly transformed into reality. Likewise, the idea that tech companies are listening to our conversations and manipulating our behaviors through algorithms was once seen as paranoid. But today, we know it's a fact, admitted openly by whistleblowers and tech insiders. Edward Snowden exposed the extent of mass surveillance, but how many people truly studied the implications? Most people heard about it, shrugged, and went back to scrolling social media. They chose ignorance. Another glaring example is the financial system. The average person still thinks money has inherent value. They trust banks, interest rates, and the illusion of economic security. Few dig into how fiat currency is printed without backing, how inflation is engineered, or how central banks play with global markets like chess pieces. Anyone who questions the debt-based monetary system is dismissed as radical or conspiratorial, when in truth, they are simply informed. The system is only maintained because the masses are too disinterested to learn how it works. Ignorance keeps the machine running. The food and pharmaceutical industries are yet another battleground of ignored truths. The rise of chronic illness, hormonal imbalance, and mental health disorders correlates closely with processed food, sugar addiction, and toxic medications. Many natural cures have been buried, herbal traditions dismissed, and synthetic drugs pushed for profit. Yet when someone raises concerns about the harmful effects of seed oils, artificial sweeteners, or SSRIs, they are told to trust the science. But whose science? The The science funded by billion-dollar corporations? Or the science that is inconvenient and unprofitable, but rooted in ancestral wisdom and natural law? The answer lies in asking hard questions, but people prefer the ease of blind trust. Again, ignorance becomes a chosen comfort zone. One of the most frustrating aspects of this age is how people weaponize ignorance as a badge of humility. I'm not into politics. That stuff is too complicated. I don't care about history. These statements are often said with pride, as if staying uninformed is somehow virtuous. But ignorance is not innocence. In this era, ignorance is complicity. When you refuse to question power, you allow it to grow unchecked. When you ignore history, you allow it to repeat. When you silence alternative voices, you become an ally of censorship. The cost of chosen ignorance is far higher than people realize. It's the erosion of freedom, truth, and human dignity. There's also a psychological layer to this willful blindness. Many people base their identity on what the mainstream approves. To question official narratives is to risk being labeled a rebel, a fanatic, or worse, socially ostracized. The fear of not fitting in is stronger than the love of truth. And so, people self-censor. They repeat what's popular, not what's true. They scroll endlessly but never research deeply. They skim headlines but never read original reports. Their understanding of the world is curated by algorithms and approved by authority. This isn't just ignorance, it's programmed ignorance. Another reason why people choose ignorance is because truth demands transformation. Once you know, you can't unknow. If someone realizes that the education system is designed to produce obedient workers, they may have to rethink their career. If they understand that popular culture is engineered to distract and pacify, they may have to change their habits. If they discover that mainstream religion has been infiltrated by globalist ideologies, they may have to revisit their beliefs. Truth-ruptive, it shakes your foundation, it forces you to grow. And for many, that's terrifying. So they stay asleep, consciously. And what does this collective ignorance lead to? A society that's easily manipulated, a public that welcomes surveillance in the name of safety, citizens that trade privacy for convenience, a population that gets outraged at celebrity gossip but remains silent on genocide, mass displacement, or economic slavery. This is the fruit of deliberate ignorance, a world where people are too distracted to notice they're being controlled. We must also address how this ignorance is systemically supported. Educational systems rarely teach critical thinking anymore. Students memorize, obey, regurgitate, and get rewarded for compliance. Media doesn't investigate, it manipulates. It's not journalism, it's agenda pushing. Tech platforms suppress dissenting views, shadow ban truth seekers, and algorithmically hide what matters. All of this creates an environment where ignorance is not only possible, it's encouraged. But in such a system, choosing to remain ignorant is no longer just personal, it is political. It is a silent alliance with tyranny. Even in matters of spirituality, ignorance has become a disease. People know the lyrics to every trending song, every fashion label, and every football stat, but they haven't read their scriptures. They debate TV shows, but don't know the fundamentals of their own belief systems. They worship at the altar of entertainment, but call deep spiritual reflection boring. And when warned about the rise of global godlessness or the slow erosion of moral values, they roll their eyes and say, "That's just fear-mongering." But the truth is, spiritual ignorance has consequences. It leaves the soul vulnerable. It makes people easy prey to false ideologies, counterfeit prophets, and deceptive systems of control. In conclusion, we are no longer in an age where ignorance can be excused by lack of access. We are in the age of intentional ignorance, where the truth is a click away, but the courage to seek it is rare. And in this age, those who still rely on the conspiracy theory label to dismiss every uncomfortable idea are not skeptics. They are slaves to the narrative. They are not defending truth. They are running from it. But there is another path, a path of inquiry, a path of courage, a path of deep, uncomfortable, transformational research. Because in this age, your level of awareness is a choice. You either wake up or remain part of the machinery that blinds, binds, and breaks the human spirit. The truth is not hidden anymore. It's simply ignored. And for those with eyes to see and hearts to feel, this ignorance is not just frustrating, it is dangerous. Because every lie that goes unchallenged becomes a building block for the next level of control. Every truth that gets buried under ridicule becomes a missed opportunity for awakening. So the next time you hear something that challenges you, pause before you dismiss it. Study it. Follow the trail. Ask the hard questions, because in the age of information, ignorance is no longer an accident, it's a decision. And that decision defines your destiny.